For full episodes as they air, listen to Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and blogtalkradio.com/Grant's Rants.
From the podcast, Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk, it's Grant's Rants Small Talk.
Let the ranting begin. I'm getting ready to recap Season 8, Episode 6 of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Growing Up Jersey, and I have a loyal listener and a Housewives superfan joining me to recap. It's Emma from OC.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course, my pleasure. I appreciate all your support with all these Housewives recaps and numerous podcasts. I really appreciate it. You know, we tweet quite often over on Twitter.
I know. It's so great finally getting to talk to you because I've been watching you on AfterBuzz for years.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Without you guys and without you, I would be talking to nobody. So I really appreciate that. So I'm glad to finally talk to you.
I know.
I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions, and we're going to get into all of that talking in this New Jersey episode. So we're just going to look at the highlights and see, and fill in a little bit in between. First off, Siggy is off to get, what was the word that they used? Hormone restoration. And apparently it's by some doctor that created it. I'm like, okay, I feel like people have been getting this done for a while, but okay. And her emotions are a little over the top, but what do you think? Is this necessary?
I really don't think it's necessary. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't really think Ziggy and Delores really did much last season. I think that they felt pressured, I don't know, by producers, by the audience, that they really needed to step up their game this season because they both are acting really out of character from who they were last season.
That's true. And it's not necessarily in a fun way. Like, it's not like, oh, wow, there's more to them and this is exciting and I want to know more. It's really kind of like them against the world. And if you're a fan of them, then you're probably loving the show. But if you really don't have a good gauge on either of them, then you're kind of wondering like what they're doing. Like, to me, it was just like, okay. But I mean, they're just too tight. It's weird. They're on their own little show.
I know. I agree. I feel like they're kind of trying to be mean girls and it's them versus everybody else. And they're kind of trying to act like it's their show, which you and I both don't like when other housewives try to hold it hostage.
Oh, yeah. That's like a pillar in my arguments.
Right.
So when it comes to this doctor appointment, we learn that Siggy basically has no hormones. He's like, you're at a level 0 across the board. Like, okay, so we're literally starting from the beginning. And then she needs these pellets. And I was like, wait a minute, didn't we already see this week in OC? Didn't she have to get the same thing? She had no hormones or dangerously low something, right?
Yeah, it was basically the same situation, and it's just like every Housewives episode, we're at the doctor's office.
Yeah, I don't really care for those. It's one thing if it's like something really exhilarating, like over in Dallas with Leanne, like that had to make the show, like that was a big moment. But these things are kind of like filler,
I know. I just feel like they're kind of trying to get to that point of being like, we're rich, we can get these procedures done.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to flex your wealth is to show like elective surgery. I guess. I mean, that doesn't really impress me. I mean, I'm not really aspiring to get a big needle pushed up my behind and have pellets. I still can't figure out where the pellets go. Like, they just hang out in the skin and the muscle tissue? I don't know where they go. I have no idea. I mean, I'll probably never know. But, I mean, do you know anything about pellet replacement, hormone replacement?
I know nothing about it. I'm guessing that they inserted it and then it dissolves within your body, but I really have no knowledge about it.
Yeah, it's weird. And then what was even more strange is that at the end of it, Delores had to kiss Siggy's ass on the way out.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
I feel like most people, especially someone like Delores, I feel like they'd be like, I don't kiss anybody's ass. You know what I mean? Like, I know she's joking, but like, even physically to do that, like, certain people have a certain level of pride where like they're not gonna bow down to just anybody. You know what I mean? Like, that was a little odd to me. But I guess if they're that close, they're too close. They're just too close.
I agree. To me, it almost makes me feel like uncomfortable on how close they are after just meeting after last season.
Yeah, it's true. Did they just meet? I think were they friends prior, like briefly? I can't
Well,
remember. I think they were like maybe friendly. I don't know if to the degree of kissing each other's behinds.
right. Well, according to Teresa and Melissa, the vibe I'm kind of getting from them is that they just kind of met last season,
Oh.
but I'm
Oh,
not
yeah. I
sure.
thought they had history, but it could be. Maybe they just know they have to go into this as a united front. Because, Dolores certainly is not appearing to be Team Teresa. She says that people live in glass houses. They make comments and all this stuff referring to Teresa. And she said that she doesn't care if she's speaking out about her at all. And because she was pissed about the comments that Teresa made about Frank, which Teresa didn't really say anything, but maybe that's the problem. Maybe because she didn't defend her, maybe that was the problem. But I don't know. She also says that Frank has treated her better than Joe Giudice treats Teresa on his worst day. So, or his best day, or whatever point she was trying to make. But she also said that Joe has had about 1 million different cheating scandals. So that's not something you say about a close friend of 20 plus years.
I agree. And we all know Teresa is going to lose it once she hears that.
Yeah, that's true. I guess Dolores really doesn't care. Like, I guess that friendship is over because she's not protecting her. She's not being loyal to Teresa.
I know, and it's just so odd because her tagline's about loyalty, but it's like, Dolores, if you're really all about loyalty, why not be loyal to a friend of 20 plus years and you're being loyal to Ziggy, who's really, her behavior is not okay.
Right. I agree. Looking at Dolores, it seems like her loyalty is a little selective.
Right. There's
Yeah.
no really time balance that she really cares about.
Right. Margaret and Marge Sr. get together, and she calls her mother Marge Sr. Odd. Like, I'm like,
I
okay.
agree.
And they sit around, and we learn that Margaret is not into Asian gardens, but yet she's like has a little peace garden put together, which I thought was nice. But Marge Sr., she's I feel like they're the same person. Like they're just like a 10-year age difference, or like maybe like an 8. I think she say her mom had her at like 18 or 20 years old. So there's like a one little generation gap between them.
I know, they look so much alike and they even act the same way.
Yeah, they're like kindred spirits, those two. So she tells her mother of Siggy, how Siggy's still not over it, even though they had that conversation at the diner. And she says that Dolores and Danielle had a vicious fight at that stupid tasting in the strip mall. I don't know if they really had a vicious fight. I mean, we've seen Vicious. You and I both know Vicious.
Right. That, I don't think that was vicious. I mean, that really wasn't. That's nothing compared to, everything that's happened in the first couple of seasons of New Jersey.
Especially on this show. Some of these
Right.
other shows, they make it seem a little bit more than it is. Like Dallas, I mean, I feel like those girls could, cry at the drop of a hat over there. But like this show, these are tough chicks. So, I'm surprised that was deemed vicious, especially at this point. But especially because Dolores keeps saying, I'm talking about Margaret, but Dolores keeps saying how she's been around this group for a long time. So nothing should surprise her. But anyway, Margaret felt for Dolores, and she says that, she has this unconventional, she's telling her own mother, well, I have an unconventional relationship. Actually, I think this was in her interview, right? I can't remember.
I think she was telling her mom that.
Oh, okay. She talked about her relationship with her ex and how she can relate, and she's not judging. So Marge Sr. tells her to give her a call, and they make plans for lunch. I could, not a surprise. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I kind of agreed with a point that Margaret made. She's like, I feel like I can't really have my own relationship with Dolores because if Ziggy's not cool with me, then she can't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they gotta figure it out, especially we're halfway through, and we're still riding the same coattails from episode 1. So I'm all for these people hashing it out. I think a lot of these housewives need to have like an honest tea, not to keep referencing Dallas, but like they need to have a sit down mid-season and reset, because they need to let some old stuff go, and then that will refuel new fights, new angles, new alliances. I feel like we need like a mid-season sit down.
Right. And the thing is that the biggest point for Ziggy on why she's upset is, stuff that happened in Boca. And it's like that was episode 1 and 2, and it's episode 6, and we're still going back to that.
Yeah, that's the problem. This show loves to like play on old history and just stay there.
I know. And another thing that was interesting to me is I felt like Margaret really took a lot of hits from Delores and Ziggy, but yet she's the one to reach out to them.
Good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, she reached out to them both, right?
Yeah, and I feel like had she not, they would have really just iced her out.
Yeah. Yeah, this Margaret, as a housewife, I think she's fitting in quite well. I think that she came in prepared. She's a new kind of chick for the show, but I feel like she's really earning her keep. What do you think?
I like Margaret. One of the best things that I think she could have ever done is that she came out and said that she had an affair. And I respect her for that, because other housewives like Carrie and Eileen that tried to kind of dismiss the issue, that creates an opportunity for other housewives to question them and make it a storyline. I like that Margaret shut it down. She said, you know what, I own it. We're happy now. And I really respect her for that.
Yeah, she got ahead of it. But I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it's still used against her at, like, the reunion or with some shade of someone calling her a homewrecker. Like, I'm sure someone is still going to use that negatively. I hope not, but, she's not making too many friends on this show, so it'll probably come up again.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him past anybody, honestly.
Yeah, I know. They fight dirty. But I think there needs to be a little bit more fighting on the show. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. Like, not necessarily fighting, because I don't want to see any fake fights. But, I feel like this episode was a filler, and, we need a little bit more Danielle, and, there was an element missing this time, and it was too much about kids, but we'll talk about it. Let's look at Puerto Rico, and Danielle calls up Teresa, who's vacationing there, and I love how she's gushing all over Teresa. She's like, oh my God, say hello to everyone. Like, oh my God, your father's there. Oh my God, his food is so mind-blowingly good. Like, she's trying to earn so many points so quickly. This Danielle, what do you think?
I mean, I like Danielle because I feel like, she's really coming for it this season. And, I give her that, because a lot of housewives, even on other franchises, they're not coming for it. But I feel like Danielle is really pushing with Teresa because she knows that that's really her ticket, because who else is really good with her? I mean, Melissa, but they're not really have a close relationship.
And there's no one left from when she was on. Teresa's the last woman standing from that original crowd, so.
Right.
So that really is kind of all she can latch herself onto, really, is only Teresa.
Yeah.
So Delores says Danielle on the phone. There's so many names. Danielle said on the phone call that she still can't get over the way Delores handled the argument. She still just can't get over that whole tasting at the strip mall. So Teresa says she's growing really impatient with Delores and points out that Delores is the one getting in everyone's face, not Danielle. So Danielle is she's getting away with this stuff too, because what Teresa doesn't realize is it takes two to get in an argument. And Danielle did bait her as she was walking out about her ex-husband Frank and where's her new honey and all this stuff. But I love that Danielle is just getting away with it.
I know, and I find that kind of interesting. But the one thing I give Delores is like, if I was her and someone's calling me out about my relationship, I think Delores did a good thing and went up and said, let's talk about it. What do you want to know?
She handled it so well. I said this last week. I would have handled it the same way. She just didn't miss a beat.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I needed to see that Delores had that in her, because from last season, I didn't know she did.
Totally. Teresa says that Danielle is doing the work of being a friend, not Delores. So that's the thing. When there's a lot of shade in these confessionals that these women have and slams against other housewives that we're not really seeing play out, we can only realize and guess that the future between the two is probably really bad. I can only imagine that they're not getting along, because we're not seeing anything horrible happen. They haven't had a major falling out, but with the sit down next week, I bet that's going to paint the negativity towards these interviews. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. And a similar situation was Dallas, how Brandy was just saying horrible things about Leanne in her confessionals all season, and look where they're at. So I
Yep.
wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens to them.
And it boils over. I think so. I really
Right.
do. So later in Puerto Rico, we'll just kind of cover all this in one shot over here. Later in Puerto Rico, Melania has a moment with her mother, and she doesn't really want to talk. I don't blame her. She probably has a camera crew around her in a public place of probably about 8 people standing around them. So I don't really blame this girl for not wanting to talk about her personal feelings about her, incarcerated father. But how do you feel about the behavior of these kids and Melania?
I mean, I don't want to judge them. They've been through a lot. I mean, I can't imagine having both my parents go to prison, and they're also not sure if their dad's going to be able to stay in the United States. I mean, I think they're a little bratty, but I mean, I understand why Teresa's just trying to be so loving, but I think she does it out of guilt. I think she feels guilty that she was gone, and that's kind of why she's so overly nice. But I think that's also why her kids are kind of acting out because they need that discipline and attention.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's basically what she said towards the end. She's like, "I just want them to like me." Like she really does feel indebted to them, which I can understand. But it's disrespectful though the behavior of those girls at that photo shoot.
I know, like, I can't believe people kind of give their parents attitude like that, and especially on TV for everybody to see.
Yeah, and like they're not embarrassed to act like that in front of their grandfather. They really don't care. I guess. I guess they're just it's up kind of their little world. I can only imagine because they've gotten away with so much. But what's their grandfather going to do at this point? So I don't know. I thought it was a nice gesture, but those photos were really inauthentic. I mean, none of them wanted to be there. They really weren't happy. So the smiles were fake. Like I know they're at that age, but they're at that lousy age. I can't stand the Antonia. Same thing. Like you can't even look at those kids at that age. They don't want to be bothered at all.
I know. I did not like watching any of the kids tonight. I kind of felt uncomfortable and just like, I remember those days. Awkward.
I know. Yeah, they're in those awkward like Antonia, I think she's like 12. So what is that, middle school, like 7th grade, like middle school. So she's in that awkward age period. But we'll talk about her in a minute. Teresa said that her father said that she needs to start saying no, and which is very true. And the two of them, her and her father, sat on those beach chairs, and I kind of felt like in my mind like they were just two lost souls. They just kind
Yeah.
of. Even she said we both don't have our partners, and we're both kind of here, like leaning on one another. I kind of felt bad for the two of them. They just seemed to be kind of lost in the world.
Yeah, I agree. And I really kind of understood it when Teresa said, we both don't have our partners. And, I think we've seen since the series began that Teresa is very, adamant about pleasing her parents and having that big family. So I think like this kind of means a lot to her that since she is a single mom right now, that she does have her dad, while he just lost his wife.
Yeah, I agree. When we return, we're going to be taking a look more into what happens with this Delores sit down with Margaret, and then if anyone's sticking around for the Antonia conversation, we'll be having that too. I think that's a limited audience, and then we'll talk about the final dinner scene between the two couples. That and more with Emma in a moment.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word.
There are a lot more rants to come.
Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms.
And now, back to the show.
And we're back talking with Emma from Orange County, California, a listener of the show and a Housewives superfan. Welcome back.
Thanks, Grant.
I'm enjoying this recap. I like getting your perspective. You're the first female co-host I've had talking New Jersey yet, so I'm happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you. That's exciting.
Yes, of course. So let's talk more about it. So Delores calls Siggy on the way to lunch. Of course. These two can't, do one thing without having to call the other one up. Of course, I look at this from a production standpoint. I was obviously set up because when they set up those car scenes with the GoPros and they light them, and, they got to put mics in there and all that stuff. I mean, it's not like a last minute spur of the moment call. I mean, it's clearly set. But I don't know what we needed to see her call her for to tell her. I mean, Siggy didn't even care. She was at the Short Hills Mall. She was like, I'm just glad I'm not there. So it seemed to be kind of pointless.
Yeah, and those two kind of remind me of like those friends that are couples and you can never get one of them alone because they
Oh,
always have to be together. It's like they just keep giving
yes.
me scenes that make me feel that way.
I totally agree. That's them. Like you can't get almost like Brandon. Not to keep bringing up Dallas, but like Brandy and Stephanie. Like good luck. You'll never get between those two. Certain people are just joined at the hip, and that's what it looks like with them. She just walked in, and she talks about how her father, which I love, said, tell him to f off with a smile on your face, and that is a really good like way to piss someone off. Just smile in their face, and as they insult you, that is a pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. That was pretty good advice.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that next time. I don't know when I'll get an argument, but if it happens, I'll be ready. So Dolores is at this back and forth with Margaret. It seems pretty pleasant, but Dolores she says she's the most upset by Margaret calling Siggy soggy. And that she really didn't take it seriously, and that she also said that Margaret called her an ass kisser, which she is.
Yeah, so is. And the fact that she's basically telling Margaret, oh, I don't see any fault in any behavior that Ziggy has shown. And it's like, okay, you're literally just proving her point.
Totally. I know, she literally did it like moments ago in the show.
I know. It's just really kind of getting like uncomfortable at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. So Dolores, she gives Margaret some advice that when things are heated, not to be funny. But that's like a character trait. Like, there's no way you can change that in someone. If that's Margaret's way of dealing with things that are uncomfortable or very serious, then that's just who she is. Some people just crack jokes. That's how they just get through life. So you really can't tell someone to do that. I mean, you can advise, but none of these situations are that serious. It's not like there's a dead body laying in front of them and she's over there making a dick joke.
Yeah, I just think that they don't really want Margaret seen in any positive way. Like, they don't want people to know that, she can make a joke out of a bad situation.
Mm-hmm. So Dolores, she defends Siggy, but she won't admit to any of Siggy's shortcomings in front of Margaret. And this is all part of that friendship loyalty thing, which I mean, you can be loyal to a fault, I mean, I guess she would tell her offline if she was acting strange, but I mean, it seems kind of inauthentic to me as a person, especially someone who's so, like Dolores knows who she is, so if someone's acting off the wall, it delegitimizes them when they just sit there and smile and watch bad behavior.
I know. And do you think that even off camera, Dolores tells Ziggy her honest opinion? Because honestly, between those two, I think Ziggy leads that relationship. And I don't know how really honest it is.
Yeah, it seems to be that way. I think it's genuine, but I think that Siggy does kind of lead Dolores along. And I think Dolores is more than happy to have a girlfriend to be led along by.
Right.
So I think they just allow each other to get away with everything, which is not going to work when they have to sit down for a reunion. But we'll figure that out coming up. So anyway, Margaret helps Dolores, she tells Dolores that she defended her in her relationship before Dolores came to that tasting, and she calls Dolores's relationship with her ex-husband impressive. Dolores talks about how long it took them to get to that point, and I mean, that's good. I'm glad that Margaret didn't go into this lunch looking for a fight, looking for, a tagline or an iconic moment. Like, I feel like she did respect Dolores, and I think Dolores went in ready to fight, but she realized that it wasn't like that. So I actually kind of respect Margaret more in this situation because she really didn't have to go into it negatively or, she didn't have to throw really any shade. I think she came out on top.
Yeah, and I think that she was being really nice and telling Dolores, I think it's great that you and Frank have that kind of relationship for your children. I thought she was pretty uplifting about it.
Yeah. I felt bad for Dolores when she said that her lifestyle basically revolved around when Frank was available and when he was through with his girlfriends and stuff. I mean, sucks. I mean, to grow up that way, just to be like the town babysitter and all this stuff, like,
I know. That's so sad. And especially that we learned last season is she's been financially dependent on him ever since they got divorced.
yeah, I guess Dolores is a very dependent person.
Yeah, we've seen it with Ziggy, Frank.
Yeah, just the people in her life. I don't know. I can't relate. I'm very, very independent in my own personal life. I mean, I don't ask for handouts or any favors. I hate to ask anybody for anything. I feel like I'm putting them out. Like I'm so cognizant of all that. But in a way, I am envious of the relationship that she has with Siggy because, I always would love to have in my life like a right-hand man or, like a partner in crime to be able to, wreak havoc with, so it's kind of nice in that sense. But in her own personal life, she just seems to be kind of a mess. But I think that she's kind of picked it up a little bit in the last couple of years. I feel like she has her own boyfriend. She got her kitchen redone, I guess.
Yeah, but what do you think? Do you think it was fair for the ladies to question like why she has a boyfriend and living with her ex-husband, or do you think it's no one's business?
I don't think it's really anyone's business, but she's making it the world's business, and she's a very easy target with that. So Danielle's very calculated in who she goes after, and if she knows there's a divide between Dolores and Teresa, she knows that Dolores will probably be a worthy opponent. I think that she probably views Siggy as pretty weak, but Dolores is pretty ripe for her, because I feel like she is a worthy opponent.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So I mean, I love guesstimating on Delores and on Danielle's strategy. I love trying to figure out what she's going to do next and why she's making these choices. I'm a huge fan of hers. How do you feel about Danielle?
New Jersey was the first city that I ever watched, and the first season I felt kind of negative about Danielle, but over the years, I've really grown to love her.
Mm-hmm.
I think she will bring it like no other housewife. She kind of reminds me of like a Kelly Dodd. I really like Danielle, but I just hope that she doesn't kind of bring that kind of darkness that was the first couple seasons. But I'm still confused why she's not full time when she's like this iconic housewife.
I know. Even she said in an interview that she was insulted by it initially, but then she, met with Bravo and she credited them that they knew what they were doing. So I've said this a couple times. I think that maybe she is doing this as a friend of with the intent of her being full-time next season. When she was let go, they said it was a mutual decision, but she said in the press too that it was her biggest regret leaving. So she was basically pushed out, I can assume.
Yeah, and I really feel like she should have stayed. I don't know. I felt something was kind of missing, and we kind of had like unfinished stories when she left.
She was the story. Yeah, I agree. It's like if Leanne left, the next season on Dallas. I mean, I feel like okay, it's going to take some time to rebuild. You're going to have to cast really big personalities.
Yeah, and with those bad seasons that we have had through New Jersey, it's like Danielle could have really helped.
Oh my God, yeah. But anyway, talking about family drama, Margaret hasn't talked to her two stepkids in 2 years, and this really broke her down. And, it's not that I like to see people cry, but like I like to see what keeps housewives up at night. Like we see the nice cars and the homes and the businesses and the big vacations, but like, as far as making people dynamic people, like actual human beings, like it's kind of nice to see that, like I don't wish any, disconnection on her at all, but I like learning more about her. I hope she can repair her relationships, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was so nice to see her really open up, and it gives, an opportunity for you to connect with her. See, this is nothing that we would see from Lisa Vanderpump. That's why I have such an issue with her, because we can't ever know anything personal, where we have these other housewives who really open up, like Leanne, Margaret, and it's like you can really connect with them.
Just because you're an original doesn't mean you can get away with it. So. Yeah,
I still don't know why Lisa Vanderpump has gotten away with it all these years, but
yeah, I think she's probably a favorite of the show, and that's it. Anyway, Antonia says that her parents are too strict. She shops for clothes. Then she hangs out with Joe and they jump around and they seem to kind of reach some common ground. And, he says that he'll trust his daughter a little bit more. I mean, this girl's over 12 years old. I mean, she's at that age. I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about Joe?
I think he kind of bothers me. I think he talks about their sex life way too much. I think he can kind of be odd, but I'm just happy that they shut that down in one episode. I didn't want to have a storyline about the strictness of their household. I was just like, thank God this is over in one episode, move on.
Yeah, I was genuinely surprised that they put in two large scenes, one-on-one with both of her parents. Like, I thought it would be like, they would show that scene where she went to the sleepover and then, they would cut to her with Joe and then they would just reference that. Because there weren't really any bombshell moments in that shopping scene with her mother. Like, that could have been cut, It bothers me. I'm nervous to see filler scenes, especially with the 12-episode series. I'm nervous when we get this much filler.
I know, and I agree with what a lot of people have said. We don't watch Housewives to see children. It's like, I understand they have kids, and that can be a fun part. Like, I love seeing Brianna on OC, but it's like, I'm not really interested in seeing all this filler with their children.
I mean, I'm okay with it to a degree because I get what you're saying, like, but the kids, I don't want to see all this stuff. Like, they got too much airtime. But I also feel like the kids are not going to be told what to say. Not that the housewives are told what to say, but the kids are so unedited. Like, there's no way you're going to have a meeting with Melania and give her talking points. Like, there's just no way. So, like, I do kind of like the honesty and, like, seeing the scenes play out with the kids in a way, but it has to be something interesting. There has to be some stakes. Like, that's okay. It's part of their lives. I guess I'd rather see that than something fake, but I think it was just too many kids.
Yeah, and as a girl, that's kind of embarrassing to have on TV, like your dad kind of schooling you about like boys. Like, I don't know, it just kind of felt a little weird.
Yeah, I can see that. See, this is why I like to have you on, because you're giving the female perspective. I like that.
Oh. Thank you.
So let's talk about this dinner. Delores and Frank are there. This one, she can never take her boyfriend to anywhere. She showed his face because they had a picture of him, right? Like 2 weeks ago or last week?
Yeah, I think so.
Because she talks about the care packages, all that raw meat that he served. Anyway, and then there was Michael and Siggy. That's her husband's name, right? Michael?
Yeah, and one thing I've been dying to get your opinion on is I can't believe that he's on this season because honestly, last season, for the majority of episodes, I thought Ziggy was a single mother because I never even knew she was married until like the end of the season because he was never shown or talked about.
Yeah, they said he didn't want to film, and I guess he's going to regret it because he said I guess last season he didn't say anything, but Siggy really, she was a different character. Like, she really wasn't in the center of too much. So I guess he thought it was safe, but he's not gonna feel that way now. I mean, with him, witnessing and bearing witness to all this drama that his wife is in. I mean, he really is, for someone who doesn't want to be on camera. I mean, he's in the thick of it, whether he wants to be or not now. So
I know, right?
I mean, she needs him. Maybe she told him, like, I'm not doing this alone, like, because she needs support.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see him this season because I didn't even know that Ziggy had a husband. I just thought she was divorced and she never really spoke about it. So I'm glad to see him this season. I'm glad that she's showing him because it just kind of completes her.
Yeah. I really think you have to show your husband if you're going to do these shows. I mean, it's called The Housewives. I mean, it's kind of hard to hide,
Well, that's why Kenya's in trouble with Atlanta.
Yeah, which is really, I didn't enjoy her scenes. I usually enjoy Kenya, but yeah, it took me right out of it.
Exactly.
It took me right out of it. But anyway, this dinner, Siggy's feeling sexual, and I was gonna say Deco. My housewives are all over the place this week. I've done way too many of these shows. Delores tells Margaret's story that she learned over at the lunch. So Siggy says Margaret gets emotional because of the choice that she made. So that was a little tough, the choice that she made by cheating on her first husband. So
I mean, that was kind of a dig.
A little bit. A little bit. I think so. Delores says that she's no longer mad at Margaret, and then Siggy says, well, nope, it's never going to happen when it comes to them being in the same room. So I don't know why she's so, like, why doesn't she trust Delores? Like, initially, she's so adamant, like, she will have no relationship with her. She hates her for making fun of her. Like, that's a strong word. Like, not only that, but, like, she wasn't really necessarily making fun of her. She was more, like, mocking her. And then Siggy did the same thing by wanting to pull on the pigtails. I mean, I could say that could be, mocking. That could be making fun of.
Yeah, I really thought Ziggy's reaction to that was so out of line. Like, I don't know what she has going on, but she's just really out of line.
Yeah, is it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you agree with me, but like, it's so unwarranted for her to hate Margaret over the events that we've seen.
I know. When she kept saying, "Oh, I hate her," and like she told Margaret she wants to destroy her. I mean,
like laughable.
I know. I'm guessing there must be some contract appearance problems, that we can't break the fourth wall about, because, a lot of problems like with Brandy and Stephanie on Dallas, I know some stuff about that was about appearances that we didn't get to talk about. So I feel like that could be a situation here, because I don't see any footage on why Ziggy would hate her.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some comments, the wreath ceremony, the cake, the comment about that cake. Margaret did go into her house, and they had that moment in the house where they walked out and she left. But I mean, that's all small potatoes, especially in this game. I mean,
yeah,
she's too sensitive. She's too sensitive.
I know, and Ziggy is really trying to hold on to the point, well, I brought Margaret into this group. It's like, okay, you didn't. She got hired, you didn't bring her in. So I don't know. I mean, I guess she kind of has to hold on to that for the whole story. But it's like, that's really not the case.
Yeah, I know. And like people, and it's more than just super fans at this point. Like people know that there's a casting process to these shows, and like the last minute changes on who they bring on, and then it's contract negotiations. Like it's tough to just be like, it's tough for me to hitch my wagon to that argument that she was the one that brought her into the group. That there has to be more than just that for me to really see the stakes,
I know, and what I can't stand is when they can't just say we're going on a girls' trip and someone has to have something going on.
Oh, so phony, I know.
Yeah, and then now New Jersey's going to go to Italy for Margaret's brand.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure, yeah, because she needs to go to hurry things along. I'm like, really? So you're going to take a whole show there to hurry things along at some Italian factory? Like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
So lastly, Siggy, she really does look at Delores, and, she says, that she will give Margaret another chance because of her friend, and, she says that she's ready to move on. I don't know. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. If we have to hear about this cake one more time, then that discredits all of Siggy for me. Because if she says she's ready to move on, she sat in front of Margaret and they said they were cool. Then she said she wasn't over it. Now her friend is pulling her out of it. Like, she's going to look real bad if she keeps bringing up this cake.
Well, I don't believe her because, they moved on at the diner and then it comes up again at the strip mall and just all this stuff. It's like, do you really move on?
I love the strip mall. Yeah. No, she doesn't. I mean, I hope she does because for my own sake, just to be self-serving, I don't want to hear about the cake anymore because we're halfway through. There's this, we're on the 6th episode, there's 12 episodes, probably 2-part reunion. It doesn't need to be 3. I can tell from right now it doesn't need to be 3. Unless if Danielle goes in there and just starts literally throwing pieces of furniture and Teresa throws pieces of furniture back, we really don't need 3 parts.
I know, and this Kate Gate is bringing me horrible memories of Pantygate from Beverly Hills.
I know. We don't need it. We don't need it. But yeah, those are my opinions this week. Do you have any final thoughts?
I just think that Ziggy and Delores kind of need to back up from each other a little bit to kind of bring a more diverse vibe to this season.
I think that's good advice. I do. especially after having, Dolores having to be there for support, watching Siggy get shots up the butt. I mean, there's a point where it's a little invasive, a little too close. So,
I agree.
Yes. So we have to come up with a hashtag for this episode. We talked a lot about ass kissing. We talked a lot about butts. Do you have any ideas?
I'm not sure. I guess something with ass kissing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we can just put hashtag Jersey ass kisser.
Perfect.
There you go. All right. So if you want, tweet using that hashtag Jersey ass kisser, and let us know your thoughts on this episode, of course, because we want to know. And where can we find you on Twitter so we can keep the conversation going?
My user is Emmy101Emma.
Perfect. Look her up, kids. You can find the information, and you can find her social media information surrounding this episode, so you can link that from there. And we'll be back with more recaps. Please, if you haven't, listen to the main podcast, Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk. We've got a great slate of episodes from now till the end of the year, so keep it here at Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk. Emma, thanks again for talking Jersey.
And thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
This has been Grant's Rant Small Talk.
Want more?
Join the full conversation on Grant's Rants Hollywood Talk podcast.
On Apple Podcasts, Blog Talk Radio, and in the links below.